This is Brother CJ. I'm sorry for the difficulties with the sound and everything. And I'm, I know y'all been waiting on me to tell my testimony. And my testimony is about when God met me at the toilet seat of a jail cell. So I'm gonna open up with this verse from Proverbs 14. Yeah, Proverbs 14:12, and it says that there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end leads to death. In 2014, me and my family was living in Motel 6 right off of 19th, right off of 19th by Highway 52. And we was going through some struggles and everything. We just moved from Claremont, and so I'm getting grief and all this about I need to get a job, make some money so I can be able to take care of them. And so I had $20 in my pocket, and I called one of my friends who sold dope here in Rochester, Minnesota, and I had got a $50 bag. But to remind you that I was still addicted to heroin at that time. But yeah, I was still addicted to heroin. A $20 bag, right? And I went and bought a $20 bag from a friend of mine, and but somebody wanted the 50. Let's go back. Somebody wanted the 50, and I called that person, and I told them, hey, I can get a 50 for them. So I had $20. So what I did, I called one of my friends and got the 20 from him, and I took out a little bit of the dope and started snorting it. So I called the guy who I supposed to be delivering this to, and I told him to meet me at the motel in the back. So when he met me there, I gave him the bag. He gave me the $20. So the next day, the same thing continued to keep on happening, and probably a week later, I had $1,200, and I ended up buying a van, along with some more things. So now we at the motel for 3 months. So we ended up getting a place over on 19th and Broadway, over there by the motel over there, the Hilton Inn Motel over there at them townhouses over there. So we moved over there. So I'm continuing to selling dope and stuff. So now at this time, I end up getting 12 grams. I started off from $20, and I moved up to 12 grams. But I didn't know that my drug habit was continuing getting worse, because I thought just because I snorted a little bit here, a little bit there, I wasn't outside looking in, seeing the things that I was doing. And one day I had called a friend of mine, and I said, man, let's go to let's go to Chicago. So we ended up going to Chicago, going to go get some dope. So we got the dope, we came back, that was 8 grams. That was gone probably in probably a week and a half then, at that time. So I met this one girl. She was using drugs, and I asked her, I'm like, hey, could you take us to Chicago? But she never knew what we was going to go do. So she was kind of like a sex addict, and every, I guess, few seconds she wanted to have sex. I never had sex with her, but this is what was going on. So I had told her, I'm like, well, when we get down there, I'll have sex with you. And I called Leroy, and I said, man, why don't you go ride to Chicago with me? He was like, okay, cool. So when she came and met up with us, he jumped in the back, I jumped on the passenger side. But I wanted him to go so he can mess with her, so she can leave me alone. So we get down there. I didn't tell her that I was buying drugs. I told her that my grandmother was about to pass away, that I wanted to see my grandmother for her birthday before she passed away. And we got there. I went and talked to my brother and I had got an ounce of heroin from him at that time, and before we left, I had gave her a little bit of dope, and so we were driving back to Minnesota, but we ended up going to Wisconsin and everything, and so she's snorting, and now she driving off side of the road, and Leroy is at the front. Is on the passenger side at this time. So she's swarming off the road, and we snorting dope. So I'm like, man, drive this mother effer right. You know what I'm saying? Before somebody get killed. So she go off the road again. So by me, I have a warrant in Wisconsin, and I'm like, man, look, if we get pulled over, I'm gonna tell them this dope is yours. So I said, look, Leroy, let's go over to this gas station so we can go to sleep. So then I got to thinking, I'm like, man, if the police come behind the gas station and they gonna ask us for ID, I'm going to jail. Now, if they search the car, everybody going to jail. So I said, I'll drive. So when we got back to Rochester, Minnesota, the girl was in the back, and she fell asleep, which I thought she was asleep, but she was overdosing in the back seat. So I called two girls that wanted some dope, and they came to Perkins, came and got the dope after I dropped Leroy off, and the girl was still in the back seat sleeping, and like she was snoring, but me, I'm thinking she was snoring. So I smack her on her face, you know, the slop was coming down her mouth and everything, and I'm like, hey, I'm about to go. Your keys is up here. I'm putting it on the visor. So I left it there. So when I went home, I walked up the street and went home. The next day, them two girls came back to my house, and it was like, Snoop, the police down there by Perkins. And I'm like, for what? They was like, oh, girl, car is still down there. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, oh, man. Oh, I got to get rid of this dope. Oh, I need to stop using. So when they got their dope and they left, another customer of mine had came back to the house, and I said, man, I need you to drop me off, take me somewhere to go drop off something. He said, okay, cool. So we left. I went down there. I saw the ambulance out there. So then I seen the ambulance leave. So we left, went to the Savers, gave him the dope, came back. He dropped me off. I went in the house, took the dope out. So I'm thinking, man, if this woman is dead, they're going to check her GPS to see where she has been. And then that the day before, she already put my grandmother's address in her GPS. So what I did, I hid the dope, and then I ended up going down to Kmart, and I called the hospital, and I asked about this woman, but I didn't have her last name. And they was like, well, multiple ambulance come and take them to the ER. So I only gave them the first name. I didn't know the last name. So I was going to call the police office. I was going to call the police and let them know, hey, look, I was the last one with this woman, and we was using drugs, but when she left, she was going to go meet somebody else. But I didn't. So later on that night, I get a call from her, a text from her, and she like, what happened? And I'm like, what you mean what happened? She like, well, what happened? She was like, I died, and they brought me back to life. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my mind, it's the police. I'm like, what you mean you died? She was like, well, I'm texting you because I'm paralyzed. You know, I can't hear. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know. I said, you was going to go meet somebody else. But that day, I'm like, man, I need to get these drugs out the house. And my wife kept on telling me to get these drugs out the house. Get these drugs out the house. I did, but then I brought it back in. But then I prayed. I said, God, I need to stop selling drugs. I need to stop using drugs, because this woman almost died. So, I continue to still use and continue to still sell drugs, not caring about nobody else's life, but only caring about myself, about my pleasure, about what CJ can do, what CJ can, you know what I'm saying, can fulfill his pleasure. You know, what CJ can do for his family, but I'm taking from another family just to feed my own. I'm taking out of the children's mouth just to put something in my kids' mouth. You know, the fast forward a month later, I'm sitting at home. My kid about to get ready to go to school, and this one guy came over to get some dope, and I only had this dope for one day. It was 18. I had 20 grams when I came back from Minneapolis, and I sold a couple of grams. But then this one guy that I know came over. I gave him a gram. Then he was like, Snoop, I just seen somebody in a black suit run across the run across the alley. So I'm like, okay, well, that ain't nothing. So he sat on the wall. So my son about to ready to go to school, and I sat on the couch, and I seen the police coming up the back stairway because there was a glass window right there. So I got up, I opened up the door, I let them in, and they was like, "We got a warrant for you, Mr. Jackson, and we got a warrant for this house." I'm like, okay, cool. So my wife asked me what's going on. I said she don't know nothing about nothing, you know. So they said, "Do you got some dope in the house?" I said, "Yeah, I got a dime bag and a cupboard right there." They said, "Where?" So I pointed to it, and I said, "It's like a dime bag. Can I get that?" They said, "No, it's against the law for us to give you, any substance." I'm like, "Man, I ain't had no dope all day. I'm gonna be sick." He said, "Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry, we can't do that." So as they went there, it was a scale, and there was some baggies there, and it was a $10 worth of heroin right there. So then he went to the top cupboard, and then he grabbed this great container and pulled out 18 grams of heroin. And he was like, "Do you know anything about this?" I said, "No, I don't know nothing about it. A lot of people coming to my house." So they said, "Well, okay, well, we're gonna take you down to the jail." So I get down to the jail, and a little while later, I started withdrawing. I started going through these cold sweats and everything, and then it was a pencil on a ledge right there in that holding cell right there. I wanted to take that pencil and stab myself in the neck so I can be able to go to the hospital and to get some morphine in me to ease the pain that I was about to go through. Because, like I said, I had a bad habit and didn't even know it. So one of the guards was like, "Well, CJ, it's gonna get worse before you even get better, and it's gonna feel like you go die, but you really not." So I wasn't trying to hear all that. I just wanted some morphine or something that's gonna ease my pain, my bones. You know, I laid down. I didn't commit suicide yet. You see, I didn't. But I thought about it. But I thought about my son, and I was like, man, how can I do my son like this to take his father out of his life? Now he wouldn't have a role model, which I wasn't a good role model anyway. So, but still, how can I take myself out of my son's life? That's selfish. I already was selling drugs and consuming him with them thoughts that I could sell drugs too. So, I laid down on the bed and I started flapping like a fish, flapping like a fish, and I was like, "Oh, oh!" Then there's people that was next door was like, "Shut the hell up, shut the hell up!" And these was other people that I used to use drugs with that used to buy drugs from me too at the same time. So they moved me to the next section of the jail. I had my own room, so my wife would come visit, and I couldn't even stand up at the I couldn't even sit down at the visiting booth. I told her, "Just go ahead and go. I feel sick. I can't eat. I can't talk. I can't do none of this." So she started crying. She was like, "I want to get you out. I got the money to get you out, but I'm scared that you might get back out and start using." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm good." But I stayed in there for 15 days before she came and bailed me out. This was February 2013 when they had raided, and when I was in there. But she came and bailed me out March 1st. But anyway, while I was in jail, I was going through the detox mode. I was withdrawing. I was having cold sweats. I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning. I wasn't able to eat, talk to nobody. I stayed in my room. I'm running from the bed to the toilet, throwing up. I'm having runs, and as I'm throwing up, I'm having runs at the same time. I'm running, I'm jumping from the bed, going back to the toilet. That's all I was drinking was juice. I wasn't even drinking water, but I was drinking the juice, and I also started throwing that up. And one day, I got up off that bed, and I went to the toilet, and I started I thought I was gonna throw up, but it wasn't nothing but hives. It was like nothing wouldn't come out of me. And I just sat there right there at the toilet, and I had my hand over the toilet bowl like this because I couldn't throw up. And I was just so tired of what the things that I was using. My eyes was blurry. I was weak. My bones was aching. And I just looked in the water. And I looked up and I seen at the bottom of the toilet, and I thought it said church. I thought it said crunch. So I wiped my eyes again. I wiped my eyes and I looked at it again, and I'm like, I must be seeing things, but it said church. And right there at that moment, I believe God was talking to me. God sat there in the presence of me, was waiting for me to surrender my all to him. And right there, I prayed to God and asked God, please, Lord, take the thoughts and the image of drug use and drug selling out of my mind. Take away that taste, that drain that was coming down my throat. Take that away from me, Lord. Even take away the use of crack cocaine, Father God. It was just the surrenderance, a full surrenderance to God, that I didn't want it no more. I accepted things that I'd done. But I still had the sickness. But God said, you'll be okay. And I believe God. But a lot of people can be saved, but they're not delivered. But I asked God to deliver these things from me. And I believe that I had to name each one that I needed to be delivered from. Crack cocaine and heroin and the street life. I had to name it for him to take it away from me. I got out March 1st. I started going to church. A week later, I got baptized in the name of Jesus. But I'm still fighting my case. I was facing 12 to 20 years for 2 second-degree sales and 2 third-degree sales. But then they was trying to get me with a first-degree possession. But I didn't have over 21 grams at that time. But they could have gave me second or third or fourth, degree possession. But I ended up started working at Rochester Taxi, but I was still withdrawn, and I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to sleep, period. So what I did, I started continue to work, and not going home. So I stayed at work for 3 days, 4 days, and then I go home. But still not sleeping. And so I guess after 2 months of not being able to sleep, but getting a little bit of sleep, I'm starting to feel myself coming back to life. So at this time, my best friend, a couple of months later, my best friend Cairo had died, and I had just picked him up at Harvey Crossroad, and it was a Friday, and he was like, man, I'm gonna spend the night at your house. And I'm like, okay, cool. But he wanted to go use drugs. He wanted to go use heroin at that time. But when I picked him up, he bought some heroin from 2 guys that we know. And I said, man, are you for real? You got me to come pick you up to buy you drugs. Now you got drugs on you. And I'm fighting the case already. You don't care about me. He's like, no, I do, bro. I do. But I know it was addiction. I know he cared about me, but it was the addiction he wanted to sell. So as we riding down Broadway, he opened up a bag. Now, a police coming towards this way, and he snorts it. And I said, man, are you for real? So I end up dropping him off right by Hot Shots. So 45 minutes later, I called him back to check on him. And he was like, man, can you come pick me up at the gas station? So I picked him up at the gas station on 4th Street. So we went back over to Rochester Taxi so I can turn the taxi cab in. So another guy, the guy, I want to say his name, had called him. And he was like, man, you got the dope. He was like, yeah. He's like, can you get over here to Meadow Park and bring me the dope? He's like, I don't think Snoop will want to bring me over there. And I said, man, where you trying to go? He said, Meadow Park. I said, okay, I'll take you over there. That was the last time I seen Cairo, because the next day he ended up dying. So the guy he was with stayed at Hayfield, and Cairo died out there, and they drove around for 2 hours to find out where they gonna drop his body off at, and they dropped him off in Slotted Park, right on the road. And that right there, I'm like, your friends is not. Somebody say that they your friends and you out there using, and when you overdose, and they gonna leave you right there. So be careful who you say who your friends is. You know, who are your best friends. But anyway, that started my ministry. Um, um, Man, just thinking about him. It just throw me off. But on now, okay, I started the ministry and everything. We did the vigil for Cairo. Then on July 16th, I go to court, not knowing what's gonna happen. I go in there and I'm like, man, so at my whole head getting light and everything. But before then, I accepted the time that they was gonna give me. I accepted through God, and God was like, you know what? That was the first thing that you ever gave me, CJ. You know, so because people was like, man, I'll be out here using or I'll be out here selling drugs. But I told them that that wasn't me. So at that time, my faith was growing in God, and I was like, well, you know what, God, I'm gonna give you my time. I know what I did was wrong. So if I got to do the 12 years or the 20 years, regardless of what it is, I'm willing to do that. So I go to court and go up there. Now the judge talking, I got a paid lawyer, but the lady that was trying to prosecute me, she wasn't there, so she had a substitute to come in. And so the judge was like, so they going through all this thing, so I'm wondering what I'm gonna say. But God had spoke to me right there at that table. He's like, don't worry about what you gonna say. Even the Bible say that. Don't worry about what you gonna say, because at the right time, the Spirit will lead you what to say, right? So I'm feeling my thumbs, but then when the judge say, Mr. Jackson, you had something to say, I said, yes, I do. And right there, the Spirit fell down on me, and I'm like, I was crying, but I wasn't crying about the time. I was crying about the youth that's out here, that's in the community, that does not have a positive role model out here to warn them from this drug use. So I'm like, Your Honor, I know that I was selling drugs. Somebody could have died. My best friend died off of it. I could have died 2 days before the police came and raided. And I told him, I'm not crying about the time. I'm just crying about the youth. And the Spirit just flew in there. And he said, you know what? I don't want to send you to prison, but I have to send you to prison. I don't want to send you to prison, but I have to send you to prison. So what he said is that I'm going to give you 3 years. He said, I'm going to take away that second degree sales and the third degree sales. I'm going to throw that away. But the other second degree sales and the third degree sales, I'm going to run them concurrent. You do 3 years. I said, okay, cool. But he said, promise me when you get out that you go continue doing what you're doing in the community. I said, yes, I will. So I went in, went to prison, but then I started studying more, getting more close to God, going to church, doing positive things that I'm supposed to be doing so I can get up on out of there, go to treatment. So then I had go to treatment so I can go to work release. But God had put it on my heart. Ezekiel 37, and let me see. I'm gonna go there now because this is what God has spoke to me through Ezekiel. and I believe this was what God was telling me for what I'm doing in the community right now. Um, he said, the hand of the Lord was on me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of the valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. He said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? I said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know. Then he said to me, prophesy to these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I would make breath into you, and you would come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I would put breath in you, and you would come to life. Then you would know that I am the Lord. Then I believe that God was telling me, CJ, when you get up out of here, I need you to go back to a place where you used to be. I need you to tell them dry bones that they can live again. I need you to tell them dry bones what the devil has taken that I will give back to them. I want you to tell the dry bones that I will put flesh on their bones. He said, I need you to tell them a prophetic word. You know, let them know that I will be their God and they will be my people, and I will write my laws on their head and on the tablets of their heart. So this is what God has called me to do, and through my ministry. And that's what I do. That is why I do what I do today, to give that prophetic word, to give that hope, that hope to the hopeless, those that is unrepentance. You got some that's going to heed the calling that God has called, that God is calling them out of their addiction, out of that bondage, out of that slavery of the gods of their understanding. Because that was my God and my understanding too before I knew the true God. Okay, so this is why I do what I do, and I have a passion for what I do. So God is using me as he used Ezekiel to go out and to talk to the dry bones, those who are spiritually dead. And you know, like I said, God had met me at the toilet of the jail cell, and he can meet each and one of y'all where y'all at. But when he called, or he's knocked at your door, at the door of your heart, open up the door and let God in, because God can change your life. You know, we all on the potter's wheel. I'm still on the potter's wheel, you know, and that's why, you know, he used me to start this movement. Watch him move in 2018, and Ministries of Good Works. So we out here, and not again. It shouldn't be another drug overdose in Rochester or nowhere else. Not again. It shouldn't be another shooting and stabbing in Rochester, Minnesota. Not again. It shouldn't be another child taken out of their home from the presence of their parents. Not again. Not again. Not again. Not again. So I just thank you guys for tuning in, and start pushing that be a light to somebody. You know, I just ask these believers that's out there, be the light into somebody else's darkness. Be an example of Christ in your community and also in your home. You know, this is Brother CJ, and I love you guys, and I'll see y'all soon. Peace out.